What is up, and welcome to my channel. My name's Bridger Frederick. I'm a T10 paraplegic, and I've got, I think my intuition says, a important video to make. And what it's about, what I was thinking about, is so many people since I was injured. I was injured in a car accident 5 years ago in 2019, flipped a truck through a telephone pole because some guy hit me head on. And I was going like 80 miles per hour, broke my spine in like or my back in like 20 places. Uh, had a spinal cord injury at T10, paralyzed from the waist down. Complete Asia A if you're interested. But what since then, so many people have said that, have told me how well I'm doing. Wow, you're handling this so well. You're doing, you're handling this so much better than I would have. And I just want to completely shatter that illusion. Yes, for the first 3 weeks, I will give myself a pat on the back. From the moment it happened until 3 or 4 weeks in, I did handle it like an absolute champion. I was a fucking savage. And if you'd asked me, and for that period of time, it was the truth. I was handling it very well. And then for the last probably 60 to maybe, even just basically since I started these videos, so, 110 days, but more like 150 days. I don't know how many I've missed, but for the last, whatever, 4 months ish and some change. My math was terrible there. I would say that's also true. I've been doing really well, been handling everything perfectly. But for the entire rest of that 5 years, fuck no. I was not handling anything well at all. I was just bottling things down deep inside and hiding every bit of pain that I could because I didn't know how to reach out for help or ask for anything. I'm not crying, by the way. I was just in the sauna. I just saw myself in the camera. I was just doing breath work. Quite the contrary. I'm happy as a clam right now. But anyways, I was not happy as a clam for the all the rest of that time, and it definitely the marked time where it started going downhill was when I became insatiably insanely addicted to opiates right at the right around the 3 or 4 week mark of being paralyzed. They were giving me some painkillers, some like oxycodone 10s or something post surgery, and like fentanyl when they were doing procedures and stuff. But none of that really was a problem. I was screaming forward and ahead, and I should preface this with the fact that I was a raging opiate addict in my teens, and so let's just put that out there. That was a pre-existing condition, let's say, and when it really started going downhill was I got an infection in my spine, and they introduced me to IV Dilaudid, and it was game over. Like, realistically, I was in incredible amounts of pain and having huge issues that couldn't, that it was justifiable in a lot of ways to be taking, heavy duty narcotics. But what they didn't know is that I just had an incredible tolerance to opiates as far as like getting drowsy and slurring or like showing any signs of it. I was fucked up. I was faded out of my mind, but I could hold it together because I've been abusing them since I was, a child, basically. And for that reason, they just thought that my body had some sort of biochemical non reaction to opiates. And they just kept upping the dose as my pain was increasing. This spinal infection was getting worse and worse, and it was terrible. But I could have easily endured it without the opiates. I mean, opiates, if you're familiar with the amount of pain relief you get from heavy duty opiates, you're fucking lying if you're saying it's a ton of pain relief. It does numb you a little bit, but after right when you first take them for like 10 days, tons of pain relief. Everything after that, chronic use, no, it just gets you back to some baseline, but it's like a moving goalpost. it's like increasing the pain, your total capacity for pain when not on them. Like it's increasing the pain when you're not using them. So yeah, it's complete bullshit. I wasn't taking them for the pain by any stretch of anyone's uh, of my imagination, by any stretch of my imagination, and everyone else's imagination. That's what was happening because I'm an addict and was a compulsive liar for my entire life because of things that happened in childhood that I just had not dealt with properly, and I hated myself for, hated my shadow self, hated so much about myself, and more and more things that I hated about myself just kept getting put in this box of unworthiness. And so lying just came completely second nature to me. I'd always lied about everything because I'd always felt as though I was fundamentally flawed. So I was lying about some core nature of myself. I didn't lie about everything. I just was never afraid to lie for whatever reason. Um, I needed to get what I wanted, and what I wanted when I was in the hospital was as much fucking IV Dilaudid as they would possibly give me, and it got pretty crazy. They started, at one point I was getting four, for the people who know, I was getting 4 milligrams of IV Dilaudid, every 2 hours, and on a 4 hour intervals, I was getting 20 milligrams of oxycodone, and I think I was also getting one long acting 30 milligram morphine in the morning and one long acting 30 milligram morphine in the night. So I was fucked up. And I just played it, I did. I want to give myself some credit in the sense of like I was in I had a staph infection in my back that they couldn't find. It's a long story. I'd love to go into it because it's super interesting, and I have a theory that I'd love to bounce off, like a functional medicine doctor, but that's completely unrelated. I'm getting sidetracked. Um, the point is, I was in a incredible amount of pain, but that was just a bad solution. I wasn't doing it for the pain, and so I basically, when I left the hospital, I was prescribed tons of opiates. There really was nothing they could do to get me off of them. They couldn't responsibly wean me down. I'd finessed my way into it, and they just don't know how to deal with me because I was an addict asshole. And so I don't want to blame anyone else, but it was a crazy amount of opiates to let me leave the hospital with. I think I was prescribed monthly 180 20 milligram. I think it was more at first, actually. It was more at first, but it tapered down after the first month to 180 20 milligram oxycodone pills, and then 90 30 milligram morphine pills, which is just, it's a ton of opiates. I mean, every time I'd go pick them up from the pharmacy, they would give me multiple things of Narcan. And that even progressed further at some point to where I started getting fentanyl. And when I started getting the fentanyl, they gave it to me in patches that you're supposed to wear over the course of 72 hours. But I immediately, upon getting them, just looked online how you could extract all the fentanyl out of them. And it turns, I'm not even going to say how that you do it, just in case there's anyone out there. But it turns out it's very easy. And I would, but super fucking dangerous. The first time I did, I overdosed completely, and I was, not, I shouldn't, that's a bit dramatic, but I was like having, trouble breathing, and it was like alone in the middle of the night. I was up writing a book because it was during COVID, and Kelsey was asleep, and I was sitting there on the couch, and I was having labored breathing, and I was just holding, a thing of Narcan in my hand, like if I start to really go, and I'd nod out for a second, but I was just like sitting up so that when I started to nod out, I would, wake up. I didn't want to rest. And that only went on for like 20 minutes or so. And then I was just pleasantly super faded. But that stuff is so poison. It's the worst ever. But what I'm saying is, that was the beginning of my demise, and the beginning of the demons and the darkness and the fucking tragically pathetic way that I dealt with all of it the whole time. There was it. I just gritted my teeth and fucking fought through and pretended like it was all just bullshit. Yes, I endured an incredible amount of pain and tried as hard as a human being could. Ex- I put in max effort to do um, the right things, but what I needed to do is just put in no effort and just surrender to the fact that I was weak and I needed help and that I'm fucked up and that I had all of this shame and guilt and emotional bullshit from childhood that was just eating me alive from the inside out. And I did kick that opiate addiction about 9, 10 months after it first started. Basically, I used up all my, like, I got prescribed all my opiates at the beginning of the month, and I used them all up in like 8 days, like the first 8 days of the month, and went to my doctor, and they were like, "No fucking way, that's insane. It's one thing to run out like 3, 4 days early, that's already super sketch, but you ran out 22 days early. Like, you're a piece of shit. You're not getting any more opiates." And so they basically gave me the choice of, going to the ER and go through withdrawals, or stay at your house and go through withdrawals. And oh my God, whew, I had no idea. I'd gone through withdrawals when I was younger from taking opiates, but this was so next level. I mean, I'd obviously never been that addicted before, and I think it was the fentanyl that really fucking knocked it out of the park with the terribleness of the whole thing. But I basically laid in bed. Thank God Kelsey was working for like the 3 worst days of it, so she wasn't really there, and I was away from her because I was just. There was one day when I was just laying in bed with, it was like spiders or ants or electric shocks were just crawling all over my body. I was just fucking puking and fucking, I shit myself for like 9 hours before this happened. So luckily there was no shit left uh, to come out at this point. Like, once I was really bedridden, but I was puking off into a bucket or a trash can next to the bed, and just pouring sweat, things crawling all over me. And at one point for like 1 to 3 hours, I went completely fucking blind. I mean, I could not see. I was blind. I just, like, my eyes were wide open. I was in the bed and I couldn't see anything. Everything was just black, and it was like the most intense, fucked up hell fever dreams you can ever imagine. And the worst of it only went on for, like, the really bad part, only went on for like 9, 10 hours. And then it was just pretty fucking bad for like 72 hours, like bedridden, or certainly, trapped to a very small area for 72 hours. And then it was just, probably 5 days or so of, pretty intense. And then it was like such a fog was lifted. And I was just so glad that the fucking hell that I was going through was over. That shortly into the 9 hour stint, I was like, I'm never fucking doing opiates again. This is crazy. What the fuck? I did not know I was that physically addicted to them. And I'd also had a couple of super heavy mushroom trips, what I've talked about in the channel, where I recognized that I was dying, that these things were killing me, and that there was no, I always intended on quitting. It was just never the right time. But this withdrawal thing, I was like, I'm not going through this again. I'm not, no fucking way. That would be so retarded. I was just like, I'm sorry if you're a person that's done that, you're fucking retarded. That's end of the line. You go through that withdrawals and that happens, and I'm one of them. I haven't got hooked on opiates again, but there's plenty more addiction down the road. So I'm not, I'm lumping myself into that category as well. I just am not, I didn't, was able to just resist that level of retardation going back into opiates again. It's really, um, I've done them quite a few times since that. I quit for good for a few months, but as opportunities popped up, with my level of injury and all the damage that's done, I broke, every rib on the right side of my body, my back in a bunch of places, had a bunch of muscle removed. It's not hard to get, a doctor to give me some opiates. I've had to go to the hospital for things and got Dilaudid again, but never taken them for more than like 2 days in a row ever again. Um, And that's just because they tune your frequency down so hard. They just shut off all of the deepest, best goodness inside of you, and they're literally a demon. They're just a shitty demon drug, and that's coming from a guy who absolutely loves mind altering substances, but it's a bad one. It doesn't help with pain. All it does is numb and forget and turn down. I enjoy things that turn up my frequency. To be honest, I would even put alcohol in the. I'm trying to get this light to be a little more even on my face. Is that better? That's better. Um, I would even put alcohol in the category of a substance that has the potential to raise frequency or lower frequency, and maybe opiates would. With I don't want to demonize any substance completely because everything's in the eye of the beholder and the user. I think the days of blaming chemical compounds for the outcomes that people have is just fucking foolish. I think it's all within you and that everything does have its use and have its place in the world. And I think that the guilt around using these things, the guilt and the shame and the fear and all those negative emotions hold you in the addiction cycle. So I don't want anyone to feel guilty for using opiates. They still have their place. I wrote an entire book on it. It was dog shit, but I did write a book on opiates, and it made me realize that I was capable of writing a book, and it was amazing. I had so much fun doing it, and I don't allow myself to regret it at all. But the point that I'm trying to make is that after that I got mostly sober, but would go through cycles of drinking a bunch, using a bunch of weed, doing tons of ketamine, taking a bunch of Xanax, and it was always cyclical and kept it mostly under wraps. Besides a pretty long consistent stint of using ketamine pretty regularly at home, that was probably tilting into the excess. And I did all of it, to escape, to just escape the pain, to escape the self hate, to escape the inability to see how I could overcome this struggle. I mean, really overcome it. And like I said, the point I'm actually trying to make is that I dealt with it terribly. I don't want to give off the illusion whatsoever that I did any of it right or admirably. I did it awfully. The admirable thing to do would be to have gone to a psychotherapist when they assigned me one in the hospital and poured my heart out and just been like, now's the time to come clean about everything ever. Like, fucking, there's no holds barred anymore on who I'm meant to be and who I want to be. But I still had so much fear and so many just missing misunderstandings about other people's perception of me. And I just wanted to live in the caricature of myself that I had built so badly. I didn't want anything to break that illusion. I wanted everyone to think only positive things about me all the time, even if that meant constantly wearing different masks and being different versions of myself. I never wanted anyone to experience any of my pain or know that I was in pain or know that I was struggling. I tried to be strong for everyone, but that ended up backfiring so hard on my beautiful girlfriend, Kelsey, because it's impossible to, hide it 24/7. She was stuck with me 24/7. So she had to absorb that, and she was in the same boat I was as far as having her emotional processing system completely inverted backwards to where, because of things that happened in her childhood that were never dealt with, we very much both are of the ilk where we like to just bottle everything up. But, because of things that happened to her, she was pulling everything down into guilt and fear. Mine was at the very bottom of that, map of consciousness. I was just pure, everything was cycling down into the lowest emotion, which is shame. For sure, the lowest, worst thing that you can feel is shame, because we're all created as these magnificent works of art, these beings that are meant to, be put on earth to share the ultimate expression of who they are. So if you're ashamed of that, it's just like, it's like the worst, sin you could ever do. And it just leads to everything being backwards. And rather than being able to, recognize survival emotions, process things up, we're inverting everything backwards down into ourselves. And so, yeah, it was just this, reciprocal cycle of fucked upness and negativity and fighting and misunderstanding and bad communication, and everything was terrible. I can't even begin, to stress how terrible the most of the last 5 years of my life has been. And there's little blips of amazing beauty, but I mean, the vast, vast majority of it was relentless fucking hell and suffering. I'm not coming here to garner sympathy or complain, because it has led me to here, and here is like as close to, constant bliss and excitement and happiness and joy and love as I think most human beings will ever get. I think there's a very small section of the population that is ever going to get to experience as much happiness and joy as I do, like on just a normal day when nothing exciting is happening. And that's really because, suffering, everything happens on a spectrum. If everything's just pretty good all the time, then, this is as happy as you can get, and this is as sad as you can get. But if you get, if you suffer, if your suffering's as far out as it can possibly go, then your ability to experience, happiness and joy and bliss and gratitude goes equal and opposite direction. It doesn't mean that you'll automatically feel that. You have to work your way up, the spectrum. And I think the farther down you get, the farther you have to travel. So it is harder to get there, but once you do, you're rewarded, because life is just. If it's anything, it's perfectly just, perfectly fair. It really is. It always pans out that way. Even it doesn't feel like it at the time. That's for fucking sure. But it always pans out that it, is on your side in the end. But it's, man, if you're in the trenches, just know you're not alone. There's so many people out there in tremendous pain and suffering, and you just have to keep fucking going. You just got to keep grinding, keep going forward. I just want someone to know that's in the trenches of it, like from that 3 week period until like 100, let's say 120 days ago. So, 4 months ago. Everything else in that 5 year period that I have lived was fucked up. Every single day was the new hardest day of my life that I'd ever lived, because they got gradually harder the whole time, because one tiny little sliver of hope would be rubbed away every single day. Every single day that nothing got better, that everything was degrading, that everything was or staying stagnant. Every day that I just kept pushing forward, and it just felt like I was either slipping backwards or just staying in place. But either way, I was still deep in this dark pit of hell, and every day actually got more difficult because the hope was just fading, and I was barely holding on by a thread by the time this challenge started. And that's the only reason this challenge was successful at all, or has been successful, is making these videos and this whole journey that I've managed to go on. And the only reason I've succeeded is because this was the end. Like, and I would have kept trying for another 10, 20 years. So when I say the end, I just meant the end in my own mind. I was done. Fucking surrendered. I was just, I'm over it. I'm going to confront the real issues that are stopping me, which is just the fact that there was all sorts of parts of myself that I couldn't even talk to myself about, let alone an intimate partner or anyone close to me or any friends or family. There's so many demons that I was hiding and secrets from childhood and things that I just locked up as that no one is ever going to know that about me. That doesn't fit into the image of who I am that I want other people to have. And that's just fucking the most poisonous thing ever. It's the most toxic thing. And I definitely can't talk about it publicly just yet. I will talk about everything publicly for sure, because what I've realized, when you let those demons out of the box, they're not as fucking bad as you thought they were the whole time. But I've barely only um, been able to fully let everything out with a therapist. Like, only just recently, the last few weeks, where I started working with a therapist a couple months ago. Now, maybe not even that much, maybe like 6, 8 sessions ago. And now I fully, only the last couple sessions, did I fully get all of it out. All of the fucking secrets and things that I just thought I would never ever tell another soul. But, that's the first person I've been able to do that with. And it just has to, grow naturally from there. But the point is that was something I just, that process was something I just delayed and put off, and thought once I was worthy of love, once I had created something immense that was able to, you know, provide for all of the people around me, and once I was able to solve any problem with whatever it was, money, power, whatever I thought I was fucking looking for, then I thought I would be worthy of love. And at that point, then I could confront them this stuff, and people would understand, and they would, and I didn't consciously think this. This was never conscious. This was just programming that came from childhood that I never fucking looked into. I was just software that was built in through, repetition and actions and thoughts and reinforcement and all sorts of stuff that I just hadn't fucking ever really looked into. And it was just getting chaotic there for a while. When I started this, challenge 110 videos ago or whatever, I was fully a mentally ill person. I mean, I was depressed. I had raging ADHD. I mean, raging ADHD. I've been diagnosed multiple times throughout my life, but it had gotten so severe. I told myself, like, I'm going to clean out these two drawers, this little nightstand that I have. I've been meaning to clean this out for a year. I'm gonna clean out this nightstand. And it took me fucking hours, because I would, you know, start taking things. I was like, I'm gonna take everything out of it, take stock of what's here, and then I'm gonna take one thing at a time to different. I'm gonna take all of this goes to my office or my bathroom, or this goes to a certain place. But I'm gonna put it all together and go to that room, because if I don't, you know, really plan this out, I'm gonna get fucking lost. And the next thing I know, I'm like out in the garage, like sanding this fucking back massager that was in there. And before I know it, I'm literally in my car, like about to start driving to the fucking store to get batteries for something that I found in there. Like, it was crazy. And I was just like, that's when I really realized like how far gone I was, of just completely unwell, just not things were really going south. And just on top of that, I don't know what else, if I'd actually gone to a psychotherapist and really fucking, you know, told them exactly what I was thinking, feeling, without like the backstory, and without, because as soon as I started getting it all out there, this stuff just began to unravel, all these fucking, but I was like fucking anti-personality disorder, bipolar, something crazy, like just unregulated, unchecked, fucked up emotions all the time, like just addictive, compulsive thoughts. And it was degrading rapidly at, the outset of this whole challenge. And I just set forth in stone, like, we got to fix this completely. It has to be done. Um, and so that's what I'm doing. And if there's anyone else out there who's recently disabled, been disabled, or, just really fucking going through in life, whether it's addiction or whatever it is, we all have our challenges in life until we face whatever lesson it is that we're meant to face, whatever lessons it is we set out to learn from a spiritual side of things. Life is just going to keep fucking shoving it down your throat. So you might as well just learn the lessons now. You might as well just, if, like, for me, it was a deep fear of being myself, a deep fear of being vulnerable. These, just the inability to understand that the ultimate expression of love is truth, no matter how bad it hurts. And that's a lesson I'm still learning. I got a lot of truths that are gonna hurt in my life still, but that's the lesson that I apparently had to learn. And until you really just stop resisting and just surrender and start listening and really learning lessons, life's just going to keep beating you down. It's going to keep on, it's just going to be perfectly circular. You're going to fight, and end up exactly back where you started, just maybe in a different environment, in a different way. But metaphorically, all the same mistakes will have been made unless you break the resistance. You can, you can have resistance to that idea. You can have resistance to me as a person for whatever reason. But if I've ever said anything in my life that I know is actually true, it's that statement. If you don't fucking learn the lesson that life is trying to teach you, or whatever lessons it is, it could be different lessons if you're actually growing. I just had to keep learning the same lesson over and over again because I was a fucking ass clown and just couldn't break the cycle. And I couldn't do it because of addiction and all sorts of other things. Well, that's beside the point. The point is, I just hope that this found someone who needed it. And I fucking love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far into the video, it really does mean the world. I love making these things. Sorry that I'm shaking the table and it's got a little wibble wobble to it, but shit happens. Au revoir, my friends. Peace be the journey. Bye-bye.